Hey, I'm Nate Savage, and in this lesson, I'm going to share with you 7 mistakes that I see a lot of guitar players make, and this is both newer guitar players and people who have been at it for a while. If you're just starting out on the guitar, these tips are going to help you not develop bad practice habits, and they're going to help your practice times be more productive too. If you've been playing for a while, these tips are going to help you get some bad habits out of your practice routine and help you see a lot more productive practice too. So out of these 7 mistakes, some of them are conceptual and some of them are actual physical things on the guitar. We'll cover both. The number one mistake that I see guitar players make is not setting goals. I get emails from people all the time telling me, Nate, I just don't know what to practice next. I'm not getting any better. What am I doing wrong? When I get an email like that, I reply back. The first thing I ask them is, have you set goals for your guitar playing? And most of the time, the majority of the time, the answer that they give me is no. Now, if you don't set goals, you're not going to be able to break those goals down into practice points that you fill your practice time with. And your goal shouldn't be something like, I want to be a great guitar player. That's way too general. There's no way that you can really break that down. Your goal should be something like, I want to be able to play this particular song, or I want to be able to play blues leads over a 12-bar blues progression. When you set realistic goals like that, what's going to happen is you're going to be able to break them down into small practice steps to fill up your practice time. Let's take that last one that I said. If you want to be able to play blues leads over a 12-bar blues progression, you can break that goal down into learning the blues scale, working on your left and right hand technique, learning blues licks, learning blues theory, and playing along with blues jam tracks too. Look at these goals you make like a big steak dinner. You're not going to stick the fork in the entire steak and shove it in your mouth. You're never going to get it down, and it's not going to be good. You're going to cut that steak up into bite-sized pieces or a practice routine, and it's going to be really good that way. It's going to be really effective. Now, failing to set goals for your guitar playing leads us to the second mistake that guitar players make, and that's noodling away your valuable practice time. Now, we all do this. I'm guilty of it. You're guilty of it. We all do it, no matter if you have 20 minutes to practice or if you have 2 hours. How many times have you sat down and just gone over stuff that you already know or that you're already good at? And you know, that's fun. It's very therapeutic. That's one thing that's awesome about the guitar. But you can't let that get in the way of your time you've designated to reach your goals on the guitar. So one way around this is to actually schedule time just to noodle and have fun on the guitar. Take however many minutes you want per practice session or however many hours per week and set at a time just to noodle and have fun on the guitar. When you do that, you're going to keep that noodling time separate from your actual designated practice time that you use to reach your goals on the guitar. All right, let's get into some actual physical mistakes that guitar players make when playing the guitar. The first one that I see a lot, especially in newer guitar players, is they tend to lock their wrist and just play from their elbow and only use downstrokes, kind of like this. Or if you're doing with power chords. That's bad for a couple of reasons. The first reason is after a while that can kind of open the gateway to some injuries and some fatigue with your elbow, and that's never good. The second reason it's bad is because it's extremely inefficient and it makes you work a lot harder when you're picking or strumming. So what you want to do is kind of free up your elbow a little bit and free up your wrist, and what you're going to do is use your actual wrist to make the motions. It's a lot smaller motion, it's a lot more efficient. And what you want to do as well is start using upstrokes too. If you're not already, work on your upstrokes. A lot of new guitar players completely ignore that for a long time. Once you get your upstrokes going, put your down and your upstrokes together and make sure to use small motions and use your wrist. Number 4 is poor muting. That's one of the biggest things that can make your playing sound unprofessional, and it's a little bit easier for me to show you what this is than it is to explain it. So I'm going to play through an A minor scale, and I'm not going to mute any of the strings. I'm just going to focus on the notes that are happening and watch how all the strings kind of bleed over one another, and it doesn't really sound good. What you can do to fix that is learn how to mute the strings you're not playing with both your fretting hand and your picking hand. So, you know what, let's start with our fretting hand, and I'll show you how to mute some strings with your fretting hand. I'm going to play the 3 lowest notes of that scale again. And look at my index finger. When it comes and frets that first note, it's kind of hanging over and muting this A string. That way, if I accidentally brush up against that A string while I'm playing the lower notes of this scale, it won't ring out. So that's how you can use your fretting hand to mute the neighboring strings when you're playing the guitar. Now, your picking hand can also help mute the strings too. The first way is my second, third, and fourth fingers are kind of hanging out on the high strings up here and keeping those guys quiet while I'm playing the lower strings. Now, as I go up the scale, my thumb right here and the palm of my hand right here start to mute the lower strings. Just watch that as I go up the scale. By the time I got up to the top, my whole hand was laying on the strings that were being played. Mistake number 5 that I see a lot of guitar players make is not using the very tips of their fingers to come down and make their chords. And I get emails all the time from people saying, Nate, my chords just sound buzzy and not clear. What am I doing wrong? Most of the time, they're not coming right down on the very tips of their fingers. And one way you can tell if you're doing this or not is to just make a regular C major chord. Watch what happens when I just barely relax my fingers and don't come right down on the tips of them. This is what happens to a lot of people. Most of the notes in that chord just disappear just from this little tiny motion of not coming down right on the tips of your fingers. So keep an eye out for that and remember to implement that when you're learning new chords, and that'll help a lot of the buzz get out of your chords. Mistake number 6 that I see a lot of guitar players make is not learning how to tune your guitar by ear really well. We live in a time where there are tuners all around us more than ever before, like traditional tuners or tuners on your smartphone or iPad or whatever. And we can kind of become a little bit over dependent on that because you can be in situations where you're not going to have a tuner or where it's too noisy for you to use a tuner, right? So actually practicing tuning your guitar and checking yourself against a tuner is a great way to kind of hone in your skills for that. If you don't know the 5th fret method for tuning your guitar, it's out there. There are tons of places that have this information, but I'll just go ahead and show you how to use it using just to tune the A string. Let's just go to the 5th fret of the low E string right here and play that note. That's an A. And the next string over is an open A, right? So if you play those two notes, they should sound the same. I'm going to throw this E out a little bit. And this is a good exercise. Just throw your guitar out of tune a little bit here and there. Try to get it back in tune and then double check yourself with the tuner. It may take a while for you to get your ears trained, but it's really good practice and you'll thank yourself later. Mistake number 7 that I see guitar players make is not applying what you've been practicing or learning. And by that, I mean not applying what you've been learning to actual real music. I can play a G major scale all day, and I can play a G major chord all day. But if I don't apply it to real music, then what good is it? I'm kind of just learning those shapes for the sake of learning them. So if you're working on a G major scale, pull up a jam track that's in the key of G major and try to solo with it. Just try to improvise. If you're learning some chords, find a song that uses those chords and apply those chords to some actual music. Now, one reason I think people don't do this a lot is because it can be really intimidating. You're not going to sound like Joe Satriani the first time you pull up a jam track and try to jam with your G major scale, right? It's just not going to happen. But actually sitting down and doing it is the first step to really taking a step towards some real progress. And every time you'll do it, you'll get better and better at it. So that does it for the 7 mistakes that guitar players make. One bonus one that I wanted to throw at you was get your guitar set up by a professional. I get emails from people all the time asking me, Nate, I don't know what's going on. My guitar is hard to play and my chords still sound terrible. And most of the time their action on their guitar is really high, which makes their practice unenjoyable and pretty unfruitful too. So get your guitar set up. It only takes about 20 or 30 bucks and it's going to play so much easier and you're going to enjoy practicing and learning so much more. I hope these tips really hit home with you. I know at least a couple of them apply to pretty much every guitar player on earth. Next time you're practicing, think about these things and apply them in your practice time, and that way they'll help you. I just launched a new guitar lesson series that you can get right now for free. Just go to guitarsystem.com/free-series, and I'll see you there.